Hi, welcome back to FutureFast. And once again, we have Christie with us. And for those of you who have joined us for the first time now, I really urge you to go back and look up the first part of our podcast wherein Christie shares his journey. And if you're an entrepreneur or if you want to be an entrepreneur, you'll surely appreciate it and enjoy it a lot more. And even if you're not, I urge you to look up that so that you'll find some connections to the part what we are going to discuss now, which is his journey with Sooorya. So, for those of you who are here on the podcast for the first time, FutureFast is an effort to bring people who are doing things that are bound to have an impact on the future. And the idea is to get some thoughts, perspectives that could potentially help us in our own line of business or work or life. Having said that, once again, Christy, thank you so much for joining us and jumping straight into it. So, tell us about Sooorya. So, where is Sooorya today? I mean, you did tell us what got you to start working towards Sooorya.
Yeah. Thanks, Nanjana, for having me. Sooorya has evolved over a period of time. So initially, Sooorya was, we were looking at the low end of the market. Then we were looking at the autonomous vehicle segment of the market. And then we finally focused on the last mile mobility segment of the market. We realized that there is a very big opportunity for last mile mobility because especially in the developing countries, public transport is not so efficient and it is not adequate. And a lot of homegrown solutions have come up to supplement public transport. So you find shared autos in India, you find jeepneys in Philippines, you find trikes in Cambodia, Vietnam, you find tuk-tuks in Thailand. All of them kind of, and in almost any other developing country, you'll find unique vehicle solutions that are kind of trying to supplement last mile mobility. So we said, let's come out with a much better vehicle, much more vehicle for this particular segment. We also realized that the ride-hailing operators and the ride-sharing operators needed a vehicle that is a plug-and-play vehicle, and that is purpose-built for the fleet segment. And we realized that large manufacturers are not really interested in this particular segment of the market. Fleet segment is only about 15% of the market. 85% is the passenger car segment. So most large manufacturers are focused on the passenger car segment, which is 85% of the market, and not too focused on the fleet segment. Of course, some of them have solutions for the fleet segment, but it's basically a small variant of the passenger car that comes into the fleet segment. So there is no purpose-built vehicle for the fleet segment. And when you look at electric vehicles, you don't have a born electric vehicle in the fleet segment. So today you have existing ICE vehicles that are now being converted into electric vehicles. So they are still not very efficient. The total cost of ownership is not great. There is charging downtime issues and things like that. If you look at the automobile industry, traditionally they went about it in a particular fashion. So most automobile companies launch show prototype. So in most of these auto shows that you go to, you'll find that these show prototypes that are there, but none of these show prototypes actually get into real production. It is just to attract attention and things like that, but it doesn't get into
production.
Just
remains the concept.
In fact, car. It's a concept car. It's a concept car. And I also had, an Italian chief engineer with me here in Singapore, who worked a lot on all these show prototypes for one of the large Italian companies that builds show prototypes for most of the brands in the world. So I explored whether we needed to build a prototype, and I realized that these show prototypes were not really of any benefit in this segment of the market. It may be good if you're building a luxury car or you're looking at the premium end of the market, but if you're looking at a utility vehicle, building a show prototype is not going to help. The other point that I have noticed was many people wanted to launch an EV very quickly into the market. So they all looked at ways in which they could build an EV very quickly and show that I have an EV. So 5 years back, if you had an electric vehicle, a vehicle that moves with batteries and a motor, that was an achievement. But I realized that that is not going to be beneficial in the long term. But to be honest, we also explored it. We explored whether we could use a chassis from another company and build a vehicle on it, kind of speed up the production of the vehicle. We looked at importing Chinese vehicle, a vehicle from China and see whether it can
China
be
has a very
adapted
evolved
to the market.
ecosystem, right, for EV?
Yeah. China is I've been there. It's completely different. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, that's all I can say. It's amazing. They're good at the top end of the market. They're not so good at other segments of the market. They're not very reliable. And if you add all the cost to it, they're more expensive than what we manufacture even in India. But of course, like everyone else wanting to try and, quickly get something to market, we also did explore all of it, but I realized that it is not going to help us in the long term. And it's very clear that whatever we do, it has to be, purpose built, and it has to be long term. Because one advantage with automobile industry is if you have a good product, you can keep manufacturing it for many, many years. And we have seen in India, the Maruti 800 was there for maybe 20 years. So it becomes very profitable when you keep manufacturing the same vehicle, year after year after year.
Correct.
But we have also seen in the Indian market that companies like Ford and GM, with all their, muscle power, money power, and everything else that they have with them, they were not able to have a success in the market. So understanding the market, having the right product market fit is very important. We have noticed that the Japanese, the Koreans have been able to make a dent in the market, whereas the Americans and the Europeans were not able to make too much of a dent in the market, except for the luxury segment of the market, where the Europeans were able to do well. So I also realized that it is not just having large capital or having a big infrastructure is going to translate to success in the market. And so I realized that unless you have the right product for the market, the right product market fit, it is not going to work. I keep repeating this word, product market fit, PMF, but over a period of time, I realized that if you want to be successful in the market, the product market fit is what makes you a success. And if you look at the EV space, you'll find that there are lots of companies that have built prototypes, but they are not able to take it to the market. Even in Singapore, for example, we have Dyson over here who spent hundreds of millions of dollars. They built a great prototype. They built lots of the components themselves. That's why they spent quite a bit. They spent a lot on R&D. They built a final product which was looking really good. But that's when they realized there is no product market fit. That means if it is not there at the right price point, in the right segment, there's not going to be demand in the market. And then if you look around, you'll find the same situation happening for many EV startups around the world. So many of them spent hundreds of millions of dollars building prototypes, and then realizing that there's no good product market fit. They're not able to create demand in the market. They're not able to launch their vehicle in the market. Very recently, also a couple of European EV startups shut down because they have a good prototype, but there's no product market fit, and they're not able to generate enough of demand in the market. Unfortunately for investors, they are focused on the prototype. If you have a prototype, then they're ready to fund you. That's the mindset. But if you really look at it, companies that have built prototypes are not able to get funding if there's no product market fit. So product market fit finding at the end of the day is very important. Tesla has grown very rapidly because they have a good product market fit. So all their vehicles today are kind of leaders in the market segment in which they operate, whether it is a sedan or whether it is an SUV or whether it is slightly more luxurious and things like that. So if you have to have the right product market fit, then you have to understand the needs of the customer. So in the fleet segment, it's not a customer. You have the operator who's your customer, you have the driver owner who's your customer, and you have the customer, the commuter who's your customer.
But at the first stage, who pays for it, right? Your customer who
Yeah.
buys it, the fleet owner.
Yeah. No, yeah, but there are influencers. That means,
Correct.
if it is a passenger car, then it's me, my family. It needs to cater to my needs. Whereas if it is a fleet vehicle, it's a business. It is like it's an investment in a business. A vehicle is a business. That means it has to have a total cost of ownership, which is low, which can generate profits.
So that is your target now?
Yeah. So we are focused on the fleet segment. So if you look at the electric vehicle space, or the automobile space, building a brand is going to be a big challenge for people looking at the passenger car segment. The big brands will anyway have, will be able to achieve a lot more. Or you need to have the kind of might that, a financial backing that, say, for example, an Ola has, who's able to come into the market and launch a vehicle in the market, and at scale. But otherwise, for EV startups, building a brand is going to be a problem. Unless, of course, you're in the utility segment, the fleet segment. So in the fleet segment, the focus is on, the total cost of ownership. The focus is on profitability. The focus is on efficiency, reliability. And of course, one big challenge with electric vehicles, though there's a big demand for it, is a charging downtime. So if it is for personal use, I look at it differently. So there's no charging downtime. It is about when do I charge my vehicle and things like that.
Demands a little bit of planning.
Yeah. Whereas if it is when it is used in operations in a fleet, a charging downtime is an opportunity cost. It impacts your business. It impacts your revenue. And but that is something that no one is really focused on. But
how are you addressing that here?
Yeah, so that is a challenge that has taken us so much of time. So I realized early on that it can't be a bigger battery, because a bigger battery means that it is going to be more expensive. It means that there's more weight. For example, in Singapore, you have BYD, which runs as a taxi. It carries a 700 kg battery pack, but it gives a mileage of 300, 400, or whatever it is. But then you also pay a lot. You use a lot of energy for carrying that battery pack. So so the efficiency goes down. Of course, in a developed world, you can afford it. But in the developing world, the price is very important. At the end of the day, affordability is very important. Cost per kilometer, per seat is very important. So we are focused on one is, bring down the charging downtime to almost nil or zero, and then improving the efficiency so that we offer the best cost per kilometer, per seat in this particular market segment. So the challenge was, how do you then solve this problem about fast charging or zero charging downtime? Fast charging means you need to have high voltage, and high voltage is not available freely available everywhere in the developing world. So that was also not a solution for us. So over a period of time, we built a very unique vehicle architecture, which is a fixed plus swappable battery architecture. So this means that you can swap batteries physically. You don't need to have an automated system to swap, and it means that your charging downtime is reduced. There's almost nil charging downtime. It means that we can right size the vehicle to operate in which is purpose built for a fleet segment, for the ride hailing, ride sharing segment, last mile mobility in the developing world.
So sorry, I just want to get you step back a bit.
Yeah.
So when you say for a ride hailing, ride sharing, last mile mobility, so what exactly is the segment you're referring to?
So I'm looking at if you any of the ride hailing operators, for example, in India, you have Uber and Ola. So they are our clients for the last mile mobility. So I'm talking about short distance transport. I'm not talking about long distance transport. So long distance transport.
So not an intra-city movement, but when you say so short distance, as in something that is currently an auto rickshaw is trying to fill in from, say, a metro station to your house, or your office to the metro station, things like that.
Yeah, we are looking at the taxi segment. So it's all the taxis that you use People want the comfort of a taxi but can't afford the fare of a taxi.
Yeah, but that segment, I'm just trying to say that is a segment where you're trying to short distance is not even intra-city, but intra-locality, right? I mean,
No.
from
Yes, so within a city. So a city
intra-city,
is
okay.
about 40 kilometers or whatever it is,
Okay,
into
okay,
40,
okay.
60 kilometers. So within that, yes, but not hundreds of kilometers away.
Got it.
So you'll need a different type of vehicle. It's not a
Right.
highway vehicle. Highway vehicle means then you need to, it has to operate at a much higher speed. We are looking at a low speed vehicle, something
Correct.
that is
So,
below 80
see, the
kilometers.
same Uber or Ola, say, I live in Bangalore, so we could
Yeah.
take it for any local transport,
Absolutely.
say my home to office,
Yeah.
but I could ride the same thing from my home or office to airport.
Yes.
But
Yes.
in this
Yeah.
case, what you're talking about is that Sooorya is avoidable for airport because
No. It is
it's
good
good.
for airport. It is good for
Okay.
airport. I'm only talking if you want to drive from Bangalore to Chennai.
Okay.
Then this is not a suitable.
Intercity, this is not it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For high speed, it is not. It is meant for low speed. When I say low
Right.
speed, below 70 kilometers per hour.
Which is what typically within the city, that is all that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On average, the speed is about 40 kilometers per hour.
Average, yes. Only the airport you can go up to 80, but
Yeah.
70 is good enough.
Yeah, 70, 80 is what we are looking at. So, and today you also have companies like Blue Smart, who has an all-electric vehicle fleet.
Mm-hmm.
Where all these new taxi fleet operators who are coming only with electric vehicles. So that's another segment, where we're getting good inquiries from. We're also getting inquiries from the employee transport segment. Right. So in India, there is a lot of companies that transport people to and fro. So that's another segment where everyone are conscious about their carbon footprint. So they want to switch to electric vehicles, and they find our vehicle kind of right size for their
well, post-COVID, this significantly stopped. Otherwise, we used to have the P cars used to be loaded with this transport. Apart from the people riding and driving vehicles, private vehicles, there were a whole lot of this corporate carriers, right? Moving their people. So now, as starts getting regularized and people start coming back to work.
Yeah. And also for like shuttle services, like in Bombay, for example, from VT station or Churchgate to Nariman Point, there's a line of taxis there, and people just get in and they go, from point to point, kind of.
Point to point, yes.
So there is a big demand in all these segments for our vehicle. We already got good inquiries, a lot more than we anticipated, even though we have not launched in the market. So the need is very. So when I say purpose built, it has to translate into good inquiries. There has to be a demand from the market. It's not a push, but a pull. So we have been able to realize this pull from the market where everyone wants to know when I'm going to launch the vehicle, because there is already a need, there's a demand in the market for the vehicle. So we focus on product market fit. We looked at right sizing the vehicle, so right size of motor, right size of batteries, things like that. We are also looking at features that are required for this ride-hailing, ride-sharing, and we are doing away with features that are not required. Today, when you buy a passenger car and you use it for the taxi business, there are lots of features that are there which is not required for the taxi business, and a lot of features that are required in the taxi business are not there. So we are looking at having a purpose-built vehicle where we kind of take care of the needs of the fleet operators and the taxi business. So the vehicle architecture, fine-tuning the vehicle, engaging with the market, with the suppliers, trying to eliminate the charging downtime. All of this has taken us quite a while. Many of the technologies were not there in the market. And it has evolved over a period.
What timeline do you see from the point of launching the vehicle?
Yeah. So I've been, every year you think that you're going to launch next year, but early on I realized that there were some things that we need to get right. It need to be made available in the market, because we didn't want to do our own R&D. We didn't want to manufacture specifically for our need, and the cost would all go up. We are looking at off-the-shelf products. So many of the components that we need have already been used by other manufacturers in their vehicles. So the suppliers have already been, catering to other manufacturers. It's proven in the market. So those are the kind of components that we are kind of integrating into our vehicle. We are not looking at a large manufacturing setup. We are looking more of an assembly kind of an operation where we integrate all the vehicle parts rather than manufacturing all the vehicle parts. So it's a different business model that we have, an asset-light business model where we are looking at assembling in micro factories.
Right. I've been advocating something called distributed economy. So the whole premise of distributed economy is this, and borrowing this German island manufacturing terminology, right? So it's basically about setting up an islands of clusters wherein you get one anchor partner and the rest. So similar things have been planned. In fact, I'm associated with another EV company, but when people say EV, people typically tend to think it's a consumer EV, but it is for commercial purpose. So a similar route. So excellent. That's nice to know. So are you planning it out of Singapore now, or are you planning it out of India, China? Which region are you looking at?
Yeah. So our major inquiries have today come from India.
Okay.
And a lot of our suppliers today are located in India. They are multinationals, but they have operations in India. So a lot of manufacturing is actually happening in India. We've got good support from a lot of the vendors in India. Many of them are interested in contract manufacturing. Many of them are interested in partnering with us to manufacture parts and things like that. So I've now decided that we would set up a manufacturing operations first in India. So we would, source most of the components locally within India. Many of them, of course, are global suppliers. So they have operations not only in India, they also have in the ASEAN region.
Correct.
They have in other places of the world too. But we have decided that we would set up our operations in India. We would source most of the components from India, and we would set up our micro factories in India. So we would start with one state, and then I foresee us having micro factories in almost all the states. And today, all the state governments also want to have
classic distributed model.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
Yeah. And I also realized that the way automobiles are manufactured with a large plant, an assembly line, and getting components from all over, bringing it to one location, and shipping it to, again, for example, if you are getting your tires, say, from the south and you're manufacturing in the north, and then so all the tires are shipped to the north, and then afterwards, assembled in the vehicle, and then it is get shipped back. So it is not very efficient. And shipping
it's totally inefficient.
Vehicles are also not very good.
And you burning so much of carbon from going from multiple directions, and
absolutely. But I think we have
this is the future. This is clearly and gives you so much scope for scale.
Yeah. So you can scale up very easily. So we have designed our vehicle for easy assembly in micro factories. So of course, the automobile industry is used to CKDs and SKDs, but those CKDs, SKDs have been built for an assembly line. Then they're shipped as CKDs, SKDs, and then when you try to assemble them, there are issues in assembly. Correct. We have designed our vehicle for a platform-based assembly, and we are designing the vehicle so that it can be easily assembled. We're drawing a lot of inspiration from IKEA. IKEA furniture is, they have kind of redefined furniture making. They've taken the carpenter out of the equation itself. And, a lot of process systems and everything in furniture making has been redone with IKEA. But that is possible when you're building a functional furniture. If you're building a luxury furniture, then, it's not going to work out. The advantage we have is the vehicle we are building is a functional vehicle. We're not building a passenger car. We're building a utility vehicle. We're building a taxi, and we are building one for last mile mobility. So so we are designing the vehicle such that it can be easily assembled in a micro factory on a platform-based assembly. It means that we need to engineer the vehicle a lot better. That means the tools that you need to use to assemble it, the way in which you need to assemble it, it's a lot more modular in design. So there's a lot more engineering that goes into it. There's a lot more higher grade materials that go into it. But we are reducing costs by not having things that are not required in the vehicle. So we are right sizing it. We are, built for purpose. Like for example, today you have a Tesla car, which is also used as a taxi. But for example, in Singapore, having seats that heaters on the seats, and on your steering wheel, and built for operation in snow when it doesn't snow here in this part of the world. It's a lot of inefficiency that there's a lot of additional components that are there in the vehicle that you're not going to be using it for. Or if you look at performance, we can drive about 200 kilometers per hour, but the speed limit is say 90 kilometers per hour. Any performance above that is not going to be utilized at all. So we are building it, for an environment that and right sizing it so that we can increase the affordability, we can increase the profitability, we can increase the efficiency of the vehicle.
But what kind of ecosystem that currently exists for this, and what changes do you see are necessary for it to make it easy for your kind of business?
Yeah, so one of it was because we have this unique vehicle architecture of fixed plus swappable batteries. We needed to have the swappable battery ecosystem in place. So fortunately, that has been developing, and today there are lots of players out there in the market.
Are you following any standard?
So I was hoping that standards are set in place. That has not happened. But there are some standards being set up.
Informal standards of sorts, right? Depending on what others are working and.
Yeah. So finally, it is going to be, if there are no standards, the one that is as a majority share of the market, that will become the standard.
Correct.
So either you have standards, or the person who owns the majority of the market, that would become a standard. So that's one part that is still not very clear, but we are building a very modular design so that we can kind of accommodate different kind of swappable batteries.
But it also depends on the availability, right, from a supply side, because that's another challenge in this whole business.
Yeah, but I think now swappable batteries, when I started off, there were question marks about it, but today people know that it works. It works in China. See, China, there are many vehicle companies that have adopted it. The government is also supporting it. They are setting standards, but it is already functional. A lot of taxis in China have swappable batteries. But what's different is that they swap the entire battery out. It's a large battery pack. It is automated. The swap is automated.
Yeah.
But these battery packs can be used across different brands, different models. So some companies have standardized it in China. So they are able to then kind of expand the market. Even in the personal passenger car segment, NIO has kind of proven that swappable batteries work. But in China, there are quite a few other players out there also who have come out with swappable batteries.
See, but also China has a little more mature ecosystem, right? Because not just one is the swappable battery, like you said, that the whole battery they swap, but also they have a ecosystem of repurposing, right? So there is a level one which goes to the premium cars, then they repurpose a little compact goes into the mid-tier vehicles, repurposed further on, goes to the economy models, repurposed further on, goes to the EV bikes. So they have this whole ecosystem. So that makes it a lot easy from a point of even unbundling the cells off the battery and repurpose it. But that is something which I heard there is somebody who started this in Delhi. I don't know how far I'm trying to reach, and perhaps even try to get to our conversation like this, just to get a perspective on how far it is ready from a readiness point of view. I also met a UK company who's offering this. Who's propagating it. So they were talking about two kinds of products. One, they are talking about their technology amplifying the very battery life. from an output point of view, and two, they're also have this technology of repurposing. So those things, from your perspective, this is what I know of, right? That
Mhm.
UK companies yet to start here. They're
Mhm.
talking to people to find collaborators. That Indian company, well, I heard that somebody's setting up. I don't know what is the status, but from your knowledge, where does it stand?
See, repurposing is, I would say, at the next level. But first, I think when you manufacture battery cells, you have different grades of battery cells. So when you sort the batteries that are manufactured, you have different
Right,
grades
right.
depending on how well it has been manufactured. So different grades of batteries go to different types of manufacturers. So people who
Correct.
are willing to pay for quality, they get the top grade. People who are not willing to pay for quality, they get the lower grades and things like that. So low grade batteries are normally used by people at the lower end of the market, where they're a lot more price sensitive and not too much focus on quality and reliability and things
Where
like that.
where does your vehicle fit in?
We are going to be very high on quality, very high on reliability, very high on safety. So
So that
we
also
want to
puts the
compete.
cost also high, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the material cost for us will be high, but but we are saving a lot in our manufacturing. We're saving a lot in our R&D. We're saving a lot in right sizing the vehicle. We're saving a lot in the how we spec the entire vehicle. So it's like IKEA. If you look at IKEA furniture, it's a functional way furniture.
Correct.
It
And
doesn't
also
have a lot
not
of carvings
expensive.
and everything on it.
Correct.
Yeah, it doesn't have all the carvings and everything else. But if you want your table to move up and down and all of it, all the tech is there. Yeah, all that is incorporated. But there's no fancy stuff. If you want too many colors, you will not get. If you want too many shades, you're not going to get designs and things like that. So we are saving on cost in lots of areas, but we are also spending a lot on
So
safety and reliability.
by this approach, you think it's going to make you far more competitive, right? That's what is
Yeah, yeah,
your.
yeah, yeah. See, we are looking at long term. Today in the automobile industry, unless you survive long term, you're not going to be successful. If your vehicle goes out there in the market and then you have product recalls, it is going to bring you down. It's going to be a big loss. So we don't want to go
So
down that path.
in this context, how far are you from sending it for a test run, uh,
Yes,
for a
we
certification
have.
point of
Yeah, yeah. So we are not yet built a prototype. We are going to get into engineering the vehicle. So that means we have put in a lot more effort into the vehicle architecture, into the design, into evaluating suppliers, into all of that. For example, you are talking about swappable batteries. So swappable batteries, there are many players. Even in India, there are quite a few players. Sun Mobility is the one that you might be
view?
quite
Correct. They are
aware of.
perhaps the largest at this point in time.
Yeah, then Honda has come in, then Gogoro has come in, and then there are other players out there in the market too. And Honda is also setting up an consortium for battery swapping. They're setting
Correct.
standards.
Correct.
Multiple motorcycle companies are working
Right.
together.
And also, I
Uh,
think even the public sector petroleum
yeah,
companies with their bunks,
yeah,
they are
yeah,
also setting up their own.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think Indian Oil is leading one of those initiatives.
Yeah, yeah, and so there are lots of options, but we have a fixed battery which powers a vehicle, and we have the swappable battery which is a store of energy. So, and ours is a very modular vehicle. The reason why we have this unique vehicle architecture is that we are reducing the charging downtime, and so this
Mm.
would be one of our unique, selling propositions. That the fact that our vehicle has a zero charging downtime. We also have a solar roof on a vehicle, which gives about 5,000 kilometers in a year, which is, we call it free mileage, which increases the efficiency of the vehicle, which increases the profitability of the vehicle. And when it comes to batteries, again, we are focused on, having LFP batteries. I've been a proponent of LFP batteries for a very long time. Because from a safety aspect, that chemistry works a lot better than lithium ion, which tends to burst into flames much more
But
easily.
on the supply side, what are the challenges here?
So the supply chain is always going to be a challenge. because the entire chain is the entire supply chain system has not matured yet, and a lot of the suppliers are still not come to scale or are available in India and things like that. But it has improved quite a lot. So when I started off, it was very, very difficult talking to a supplier itself. And then of course they didn't have the product that we needed, because we were looking at low speed, low voltage, a different set of products compared to what is there in the West, where they focus on speed, they focus on range, they focus on fast charging. So their focus was on performance, our focus was on efficiency. They could afford to pay the price. We were always conscious about the cost. Affordability is the driving factor here in the developing countries. So, but today I would say that there are good suppliers out there in the market. Fortunately, when it comes to automobile industry, India has been making automobiles for many, many years. So there's a good supplier network already in place. It is only the motors, the batteries, the BMS, the ECUs and things like that needed to come up. And today, I would say it's we have quite a good supplier network available in the country. So I would say we are very fortunate that we are coming into an ecosystem where there are a lot of suppliers already in place. It's not a completely new industry that we're getting into. For example, if many other countries, they don't have an automobile manufacturing industry of their own. So there, when you go, everything has to be built from scratch.
Correct.
So that's more challenging than I would say that building it in India. So that's why we kind of are also settling in building our vehicle first in India.
Right. And how is the whole access to capital for you in this business? Because one side, there is a lot of money made available for EV businesses, EV startups. But at the same time, there is so much of noise happening here that is also pushing the investors back because, the very same reason, right?
Yeah.
So how is this, how are you handling this aspect?
Yeah. So we have been bootstrapped all so far. We didn't want to take in early investors' money. We didn't want to get influenced too much by, the early investors. We didn't want to dilute too much also too early. Many of the startups, have lost control of their company because they diluted too early. Two, you also then get influenced by the investor, and they force you to get to market very quick, and if you're not ready and if you launch, it's going to fail. So we have seen a lot of startups with prototypes ready but not able to go to market because there's no product market fit. And if you don't have a good product market fit, it is not going to succeed in the market. We have been, I've been quite active, on LinkedIn, and I've been attending quite a few events, seminars. I'm fortunate that I've got good media coverage and things like that, which has now allowed me to kind of attract a lot of talent, suppliers, investors. Many large investors have already approached us from Japan, from India, from UK, Europe, places like these. So all of them are interested in our product. They see that there is a market opportunity. The need is there in the market. They know that large manufacturers are not focused on this particular segment. They're all focused on the passenger car segment. They're not focused on this part of the fleet segment. The fleet segment for long distance transport, of course, Toyotas and all of that, can cater to that space still. But for short distance transport, there's no one really focused on it. And whoever is there are only bringing in, just converting their existing platforms, which is already a 10, 15-year-old platform, to electric, which is not very efficient. It's,
you're referring to BYDs of the world, right?
Yeah, BYDs, or even in India, for example, the Tatas or Mahindras, whatever the platforms,
they don't have anything for this segment as such. At least,
yeah, they don't have exactly, like the Maruti Eco would have, a conditioned Eco would have been one which is close to what we get for building. But I'm just saying, but the idea is that, okay, you have large manufacturers, but none of them are really interested in this particular segment of the market.
Did you try talking to Mahindra's EV initiative they acquired? Did you talk to them?
Yeah, I spoke to Mahindra's before the last two management changes happened, and we were, working very closely with them because at that point of time they were in the market to supply components to other EV manufacturers. Then, of course, there was one management change, and now there's another complete management change.
Is the same division who acquired Reva, right? The Bangalore-based
yeah.
EV company.
Yeah, but yeah. So then they wanted to manufacture components for the EV market for other manufacturers. So they said drivetrains are available, batteries are available. You want, we can supply it for you, and things like that. But we have got good good interest from large investors. But coming to your point, I think there is still investors are not able to understand the EV market very well. So most of them are looking at, okay, how much, show me a prototype. That is the first thing that many of them ask. They don't realize that prototype is not the end solution. A prototype which is not purpose-built, which is not, which has the right product market fit, can't go to the market. But they all focus on that. So the challenge is to tell them that we are, now getting into a stage of not building just a show prototype, but building for a prototype for production. That means a product, it is engineered
a commercial prototype.
Yeah, a production intent prototype. It has to be completely engineered for production. It's only then that our IP can come out, whether it is a modular design of the vehicle. Unless you engineer it and build it, you'll not be able to show how quickly it can be assembled. Or the unique vehicle.
You're working on this out of Singapore, or are you working out of India?
This is, I would say, global in a way, because we are kind of leveraging a lot on suppliers. So I didn't want to build our own team and then start working on it. And then, there's a lot of talent already available. There's a lot of, expertise already available with a lot of suppliers. And because we're going to be sourcing a lot of components from our suppliers, I've kind of, leveraged on that supplier network. So a lot of simulations and all of that suppliers are willing to do. One is all of them are convinced that we have a good product that we are bringing to market. So it has taken us time. 5 years ago, it was difficult to talk to any supplier. But today, most of the suppliers are talking to us because we have come from a sketch to a 3D model. They now see the progress, they see the market, they see the opportunity, and they understand. And all of them are now, they understand the market is also shifting from ICE to EV. So they're also betting on a few startups. So I've got good support today from the supplier network. And a lot can also be done on computers today. You don't have to start by building a physical prototype, just to show it. So what I find as an issue with investors is the analysts who first look at everything. They have a checklist with which they try to kind of come to some conclusion on it. And I think it is difficult for most investors to understand which company, which product is going to go, which is going to be a success in the market. So they all depend on the company, but actually, when it comes to EVs, it has to be on the product, because even a Ford and a GM can fail in the Indian market. So it is not the company, it is not your team, it is not your assets, it's not all of that.
So, but you are also engaging investors in the meantime. So
we have started engaging with investors this year, I would say, more actively. So now we are looking at the right investor that we want to take on board. We have a few lined up. We want to see who's going to be best for us. But our follow-on investors are already there. We have some large investors who are already keen to come on board. So it's now only getting the right investor at this stage for us to spend money on engineering and then on building the first batch of vehicles.
Right. And how do you see the government's policies and other effort in terms of how is it helping you or restricting you, restraining you? How is that? Where does that stand?
See, I would say I'm pleasantly surprised by the support and the interest and the effort that the government of India is putting into transitioning the automobile industry to electric vehicles. India, of course, has an imperative to transition to electric vehicles as quickly as possible because we import most of our fuel. Almost 85-90% of our fuel is imported. And that's more than $100 billion every year. So it's a huge, forex outflow for the country. We are making the oil exporting countries rich, and so that's where it is. Two, there's a lot of pollution that is happening. So though the automobile industry is kind of self-sufficient in India, the fact that all those vehicles need to be powered by imported fossil fuels, that's a big drawback for the country. Whereas with electric vehicles, we might import batteries today, we might import some components today, but we don't have to import the energy to power the vehicles. The energy to power the vehicles can be powered by renewable energies, which can be all across the country, which can be a lot in the rural areas, which can empower a lot of rural areas, provide opportunities there. So we can actually spread a lot of prosperity all around the country by switching to renewable energies to power our road transport needs. So from a government perspective, I think the government is fortunately doing quite a bit to transition the automobile industry to electric vehicles. I hope that they continue on that perspective and they don't cut policies very quickly. But from Sooorya EV perspective, because we are a global company, we are not focused on any government incentives. So our entire business model, our entire product, everything is built to be agnostic to any incentives that are out there in the market. So we want to be profitable without any incentives, without any, but of course, the other support that the government gives, like reduction in taxes and all of that, that is good. But the demand side incentives, to create a demand in the market, I think we would be able to, do well even without that. So that is the way we are kind of modeling our entire business. But we are also looking at other markets, and I think today most governments are kind of have some incentives for EV companies.
Correct. How do you see these industry bodies? In fact, I see everywhere electric vehicle or EV is one of the things that is talked about, right? Even right now, what we have G20 presidency out of India, meetings across India that G20 is happening. They're talking about all the new technologies. One of the things they're talking about is EV. So how do you see these industry bodies coming together to make anything easier in terms of putting up a better representation from government lobbying, or what do you see? How do you see this developing or evolving?
See, in countries where there is a very strong automobile industry,
such as here we do have. So how do you see that? I think
then there is there are different needs that need to be taken care of. So there is a legacy automobile industry which would like to slow things down, so that they can prolong their sales for a much longer time. And then there is the new EV industry that wants things to happen much more quickly. So this tug of war is kind of going to be there,
but today in India, everybody have come up. I think Tata's have EV, Mahindra has EV, who else? Suzuki has EV, Toyota has EV, Honda has also announced its EV. So everybody's got EV efforts, and EV either announcements have come up or many of them have also started selling. Even those new brands, Hyundai has EV. MG has EV already on road selling. So everybody is selling. So industry bodies should, I think, probably taken over by the pro EV folks. Not yet.
It will take some more time. I think it will take some more time before everyone sings the same tune. And it is understandable. I mean, if you have made so much of investment into ICE vehicle, and you have a certain timeline and horizon to kind of recoup your investments, it is going to be difficult for you to make a switch completely. So though everyone have a toll into the EV space, it will take some time before they're able to make a switch completely.
Christie, one question I was just thinking when you saying that. See, now in the two-wheeler EV segment, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of new two-wheeler, new EV companies have come about, new brands. Many of them are bringing from outside.
Yeah.
And I've also met 2-3 startups who have come up with these convertible kits. So I met one of them who's right now focused only at I think Kinetic, one particular brand. I'm not sure if it is Kinetic or Honda Activa, one of them. So because they are the largest selling two-wheeler segment, and so they have a product which is ready for it. And the other one I met, they are working for more that plus few more, and I met one more. So there is a lot of traction happening on the EV kit businesses. So how do you see the car segment? Do you see this EV kit will come into the car segment? Because I have not come across any. All the kit businesses I've seen are essentially focused on two-wheelers. So have you come across any, or what's your take?
Yeah. So see, in any large market, there's a space for everyone.
Correct.
For all types of solutions, and there is not going to be much competition at least till the year 2030. Yeah, after 2030 is when I would say there would be a lot more competition in the market, a lot more consolidation in the market. The market would mature a lot more. But till that time, I think there is going to be a kind of free-for-all kind of a market situation, where everyone would come out with different solutions and try to make some dent in the market or make some business in the market. But if you look at long term, I don't think the kit business would work very well, because it is not going to be really commercially viable. It would be easier for you to just buy a new vehicle, buy a new bike, for example, than try and convert it.
Correct.
But in the higher end, for example, in trucks and things like that.
Sorry, see, in the two-wheeler, one thing what they have managed to achieve is that one of the companies I met is that they have already got approval of extension of life, right? So currently the life is 15 years. So at the 15th year, if they get this change done, they will get an additional 5 years. Or if you're 13 years, it will get you plus 5 years.
Okay.
Anyway, so I think that has become a major selling proposition. So obviously, like you said, government is going aggressive in pushing for it, and many of these convertible kit ventures have taken advantage of it.
Yeah. So, but I would say it'll be a small segment of the market. Yeah, I don't think it is going to be a significant segment of the market. I think the focus would be on born electric vehicles, because ultimately a born electric vehicle is the one that would deliver maximum value. This ICE vehicles converted to electric vehicles, which most manufacturers are launching.
But is there anything you saw on the four-wheel side, four-wheel EV happening, anything like that? Because I have not come across any.
Yeah. So abroad, if you look at it, some of the classic cars are being converted into EVs.
Okay.
Yeah, but that is a lot more from I would say a hobby or a passion kind of a.
Okay, but no business which is coming up with a kit of sorts.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are a few players that are trying to do, but it is quite complicated, because when it comes to servicing, who takes responsibility?
Correct. Where is it happening, in China or Singapore? Where?
No, it's not happening. In Singapore, it won't happen, because every 10 years, vehicles get rotated over. So they can upgrade all their vehicles. In China, I'm not very sure about this retrofitment.
You come across something in India then?
In India, there have been people who have been trying to come out with kits. But I don't think it is going to work out as a very big market opportunity. It's going to be a very niche market opportunity. But maybe in trucks, where many of them fly in rural areas after their life is over and things like that, maybe they will try something. But of course, that's not going to be the focus for any major automaker at
all. Do you see anybody else who's trying to address the same market that you're trying to address here? In the Western world somewhere?
Yeah.
Or
so
in China, if you have come across any?
Yeah. So China, they have electric taxis. With
which is
swappable batteries.
Designed for taxi, not like
China. There are lots of vehicles, but I'm saying the regular vehicles, operate as a taxi, and there's a lot of tech that is to be available in China, so that's not an issue. So you want GPS or anything else into the vehicle, all that is easily fittable, and they have this swappable battery. So on the taxi segment, electric vehicles have really taken off. They don't have, I would say, purpose-built, but they can copy anything and they can make anything. So China is a completely different market. And that's a market which has, I would say, a sale of about 20 million cars in every year.
Wow.
Whereas we sell about 4 million cars in India, and 20 million bikes. So the market is very huge in China. The only vehicle that is an electric taxi is the London Black Cab. So a Chinese company, Geely, has taken over that company, and they have a London electric vehicle company, LEVC, which is a London Black Cab, which is an electric vehicle. It also has a range extender, which is a fossil fuel generator, which charges the vehicle on the move. There was another EV startup called Arrival in UK that was trying to build a purpose-built taxi for the developed world. But
this Black Cab, it's not purpose-built, right? It's remodeling the same design, right?
Yeah, but that Black Cab was purpose-built as a taxi. So if you go in and
say,
it's built as a taxi. So there's enough of space for your luggage, and there's enough space for you to sit and things like that. It is the only vehicle built as a taxi. So that's why it was very unique. It is called the London Black Cab. And now they've electrified that vehicle. There's another company called Arrival, which was focusing on it. They're no longer focusing on this. So there's no one else who is really focused in the segment of the market.
So for you at this point of time, so the London Black Cab is some sense a benchmark because they are the most successful purpose-built electric cab on road.
Hello?
Is that fair to say that?
Hello?
Yeah.
You froze for some time.
Oh, okay. So
yeah. So you're talking about the Black Cab.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that that could be some sense a benchmark for you at this point in time because they are the only purpose-built EV cab on road?
So London Black Cab is, again, it's been there for ages, and it is meant as a cab.
Correct. But as EV cab?
No, so we are focused on ride sharing. So ours is focused ride share. So we have it's an 8-seater vehicle, 7+1, driver, and it is built more for the developing world. So ours would actually set a benchmark for all the other, followers who are going to come into the market.
Right.
You're frozen again. You froze again. I don't know whether you heard.
I can hear you. I can hear you and see you as well clearly.
Oh, okay. But your video image was frozen. So.
Okay. Right. So, one other question I wanted to ask in terms of these consortiums coming together, what Honda is working on, and I think there was one more announcement of another consortium. Mostly on the battery side, these consortiums are coming. So, do you first is that what's your take on these kind of consortiums? And obviously, this seems to be the best thing from a point of evolution of technology and faster adoption because there are multiple heads coming together to build it. From your perspective, what's your thought on this?
Yeah, I have a very unique take on this. I've been studying as a marketer. You kind of constantly keep studying different markets and different brands and what I've noticed is the Japanese always operate in packs. So if you notice when they came to India as two-wheelers, all the Japanese brands came into the market. The Honda, the Yamaha, the Suzuki, the Kawasaki, all of them came together into the market. And this is how they go about capturing markets everywhere. They all work together. So they compete, but they also cooperate. And that is how they make their entry into different markets. And I like that. I mean, I like the way the Japanese operate. Unfortunately, in India, we don't have that same spirit. Because I think one is we're all so focused on competing within the country. But if we have a more global mindset, I think then we would look at what do we need to do to actually be able to capture global markets. That means the market is going to be much bigger for everyone. Each one will have a lot more market share. And that would make us then, kind of cooperate. For example, if you look at charging standards, China is very clear, one charging standard. Singapore is very clear, one charging standard. You come to India, there are multiple charging standards. So likewise, if you look at batteries, we are not able to come to the standards. We're still thinking that it will curb innovation. It will standards doesn't mean that it will curb innovation. You can build standards which can also there's space for innovation.
But it will facilitate faster adoption. So.
Absolutely. For example, if there is a single battery standard and a swap station, in India, we have done that luckily, fortunately, it happened with cooking gas cylinders, for drinking water canisters, for batteries that we use in everyday life. But unfortunately, in electric vehicles, each one thinks that is an IP. A battery is not an IP. Your other aspects of it can be your IP, but your battery need not necessarily become your IP, because chemistries, you choose one type of chemistry, and trying to squeeze out a little more performance out of a battery is not where the value is, especially in a market in the developing world where you're focused on efficiency, focus on performance. But Tesla is definitely focused on performance, 0 to 100 in how many seconds, then of course, you might want to integrate.
No, but it also has a lot of other geopolitical bearing on it, right? Because that's why I think Indian Oil Corporation, IOC, partnered, first invested with a Israeli startup.
Yeah.
And then now they're setting up a joint venture and setting up a manufacturing plant here.
Yeah.
So possibly government may push for adoption in that, because the dependency on currently lithium dependency on China for lithium is so high across the world.
It is only a small phase, because China invested early on in lithium.
Correct.
In lithium, mines and refining, in manufacturing. But lithium is available in plenty. It's available everywhere. It is just that we are now other countries, and they're beginning to invest in mines, invest in refining, invest in battery manufacturing.
Including India with
it is not the same as oil. Oil is a natural resource that is only concentrated in a few locations around the world, whereas lithium is available globally. We also found lithium in India. It's available in Afghanistan. It's available in Iran. It's available in Australia. It's available, in so many places. And we have not started looking for lithium everywhere.
No, but that whole cycle will take a much longer time, right? See,
but you have
even
to go
the mine,
process.
what is availability, what is identified in Jammu and Kashmir, by the time it is commercially available, it may become almost 7 years from now.
Not necessary, because mining and refining, all these technologies are all mature technologies. It's available. It's just that investments need to go into it, and now market demand is also there. So I would say, if you look at the way Tesla has expanded, if you look at other countries that are now getting into it, I don't foresee any bottlenecks over there, except the fact that someone needs to put in money. They need to refine, they need to mine, they need to refine, and then they need to manufacture. But there is a big demand for these batteries. So I don't foresee. So at least there's a market draw for these batteries. I don't see a bottleneck over there. It's not like oil, where there's some geopolitics where some country can decide whether to give you the oil or not give you the oil. And they have a hold on they can manipulate prices.
Correct.
That is not going to be the case with lithium batteries. Two is, once you get the lithium batteries into the country, they can be, reused. They have a second life in stationary storage and things like that, and then they can be recycled and reused into manufacturing new batteries. So all the battery materials, more than 90%, 95% of it can be, recovered and reused. So batteries is lithium batteries is not going to be an issue. New technologies, for example, the one that IOCL has tied up with
that is with iron cobalt, right?
No. They are tied up for metal air batteries, aluminum air batteries.
Okay.
So that is completely different. There you don't need electricity to charge it. It's aluminum cartridges that generates energy.
So it gives you. You don't necessarily have to look at it in the need for a large swappable ecosystem at all, right?
Yeah, so that is a game changer. Once it comes into the market, it's yet to come into the market. It's going to take some time before it comes into the market. But that can be a game changer because you're not.
I heard expectation is the early 24 it will be in the market. That's what was talked about, right?
See, maturity for anything takes time. And I would say the automobile industry would be the last to adopt any new technology. They would first like to see it operating in maybe stationary storage. They would like to see it operating in other appliances before they bring it into an automobile. So you understand?
But assuming that government pushes it because it's a government public.
Even if the government pushes it, at the end of the day, the automobile manufacturer has to take a decision because if there is a recall, who's going to pay for it? It's so we definitely would like to adopt it, but it depends on how reliable it takes some time for maturity. It's not that you can just bring out any new technology and expect the automobile industry to adopt it. Lots of new chemistries have been coming in. Lots of people putting in lots of money in some technology, and people thinking that is going to be the next big thing in the market. It is not going to happen. I would say minimum it would take 10 years from manufacturing to maturity, but the timeline is more like 15, 20 years. But before that, first it would have to come into use in other areas before it comes into an automobile. An automobile industry is a bit finicky about what they adopt into the vehicle because there are there are a lot more parameters that you need to be concerned about.
So what would be those three things that could make Sooorya EV to stand up to these large automobile companies?
So one is we are not competing with any large automobile manufacturer because none of them are too much interested
in this segment as yet.
Fleet segment. And even in the fleet segment, none of them are interested in the last mile mobility segment. Mm-hmm. So there's not too much of an interest. But if you look at it, how do we compete? The product that we are engineering, that we are designing, that we're coming out with is going to be a much superior vehicle than any other vehicle out there in the market today. So if you look at the existing vehicles in the market, which the automobile manufacturers are now converting to electric vehicles, they're all 10, 15, 20-year-old designs. If you look at it, they're not engineered very well. If you look at it, they're not designed very well. If you look at many people, even from large automobile manufacturers, have kind of appreciated our design. At least where our design is pointing to. They see it as futuristic. They see that we are looking at aesthetics, we're looking at design, we're looking at engineering, and lots of other aspects. We can't reveal everything at this point of time. Whatever we have revealed is kind of giving them an understanding of where we are going with our product. The final product will be much, much, much better than whatever we have revealed so far. So we have got good feedback from existing automakers, professionals working with existing automakers. Many of them are drawn to us. Many of them kind of want to join us. We are able to attract a lot of talent because ours is the first purpose-built vehicle. There's also a lot of social impact when you come out with a right size vehicle for this particular segment of the market. I don't think we would need to worry about competition till 2030. After 2030, I would say, there will be competition, there would be others. But by the market that we are looking at is not just India, it's global. In many countries where we are getting inquiries, they don't have an automobile industry. And
so there is a huge demand anyway across the globe.
Yeah, demand is huge.
Well, Christie, in this through FutureFast Podcast, from a point of, if you want to give a shout out
Yeah.
What do you want to give a shout out to? I understand you. If you had your product ready, you would have said, "Fleet owners, check out my site and start booking." But today, is there anything that you want to give a shout out to that could probably help you with any of it? Is that for resources or collaboration or investors to keep a watch out on? What is it that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah. So I mean, I think the one area that I would like investors to be aware of is, if you're putting your money, put your money on on an EV which has the right product market fit, because that's where you're going to be successful. And put your money on on a startup where the founder is very actively involved in the whole process. And have a slightly more open mind, because someone from the automobile industry is not going to be building a better automobile. It has to be someone from outside the industry that is going to be building a better automobile, because it's no longer an automobile. For example, someone in the industry looks at it as an automobile, and we have seen what happens. For example, the Siemens and Alcatels and all of that, they were building cordless phones, and when they came out with a mobile phone, it looked like a cordless phone. But then it's an Apple tech company that re-looked at how a phone needs to be and came out with a phone which had no buttons on it. I would say innovation is going to happen from outside the industry, not from within the industry.
Wonderful. In fact, for the listeners and audience, in the same context, there was another guest called Bart Reams, that economist, who also comes from Singapore. He was talking about it. Money is not made from yesterday. Money is made in the future.
Yeah.
So if investors are looking at making money, it is about investing on the future and not for what is done in the past. So with that, thank you so much, Christie, for sharing your perspective across the industry ecosystem, and also sharing how you see and how you are approaching to build it, which is fantastic. And look forward to perhaps having you to show the release of your vehicle, and perhaps also give a shout out at that point in time. So for all of you, once again, if you have missed it, I don't have to ask you. You will want to go back and check his journey till now, so that what you hear, you want to make sense. You would want to know more about it. And if you liked it, please go ahead and share it with all your circle of friends and people who will appreciate this. And with that, till we come back and get Christie to come and put on his glasses to do some bit of future gazing. Enjoy the ride. Thank you so much. Thank you, Christie, once again.
Thanks.